On a recent trip to my local Walmart, which is as close as I can get to a big box store in my area, I noticed a lot of empty shelves. And of course, people have been posting evidence of empty shelves all over the country on social media lately, and it's something we're all experiencing together. And as I was walking up and down those empty aisles, I started to think to myself that this is getting bad because of what's happening over in Ukraine right now. A lot of things are lining up to put us back into a situation where rationing food becomes a necessity. And that is something that you should be prepared for and that everybody should be concerned about right now. The US is already pulling the families of their diplomats out of Ukraine with expectations of tensions rising, and they're delivering heavy equipment there right now to make sure that there is some kind of a military strength in that country in case there's ever a Russian incursion. And if that whole situation over there develops into a global conflict, and we have the empty shelves that we're already seeing here all over social media in our country, and we know that these things are in short supply that we rely on, you have to assume that rationing will be put back into place if we find ourselves in the middle of a war. And this is something that has happened before and can easily happen again. Back in 1941, the Office of Price Administration was put into place in order to put a ceiling on prices, which we know are skyrocketing through the roof on just about everything right now, and to limit consumption through rationing. And that was in place between 1941 and 1947. So for 6 years, Americans had to deal with rations when it came to food, especially when you're talking about meat, dairy, coffee, sugar, butter, oil, things that we rely on to survive and have a quality of life here in the United States. And do you think that most Americans right now are actually capable or ready to be dealt ration cards and then to have to go out and only buy what they are allowed to? This country is not used to having to sacrifice in that way at this point in time. And a lot of people will not be able to adapt to that new concept, which will be put into place whether or not we like it. And since the shelves are already empty, can you imagine a global conflict starting right now and rationing not coming back into place? It's very likely if you look at what happened in previous history. And understand that these rations also affected things like gasoline, tires, and the cars themselves. And you have to understand that those cars are already in short supply right this second. And that if anything happens and the war effort takes precedence over anything else going on, then vehicles, all the semiconductor microchips, and everything else we're experiencing shortages with right now will be sent to that war effort. And that any war on that scale will also disrupt trade further, which means more shortages, more supply chain issues, and more price increases. So if you don't think that rationing will be put into place and that something similar to the Office of Price Administration will show up to try to put a ceiling on these prices as well as putting rations into place to limit consumption, then you're being very naive. Understand this Ukraine situation can turn into a very bad thing very quickly, and the fact that we're already short on supply on just about everything and that the shelves are looking as empty as they are, this is all lining up to be perfect storm situation status for rations to come back. And I wanted to make sure you were ready for it and mentally prepared for it and understand that this is a real possibility that we should be preparing for right this second, okay? So this is what I was thinking about when I was at the store the other day. Some of the photos I shared here in the video were just for you to see exactly how empty the store in my area was. And I know a lot of you are sharing these exact same images all over social media to try to keep everybody on point about what's happening right now. And that's the best we can do. Keep preparing, because the surplus stock that you have on hand right this second might be the most you can get for a very long time if this whole thing escalates to the point of a global conflict. And like I said, the Office of Price Administration lasted from 1941 to 1947. So for 6 years, you can imagine having to deal with rations of some kind if something was to occur right this second. And that's why we need to make sure we're ready for it. And that's why you need to understand that this is getting bad.